I want to begin by reflecting on a few ayat from the Quran to set the stage for our discussion today. Often, we can appreciate an ayah more deeply when we are able to situate it in a contemporary context or relate it to our personal experiences. If we can do both, it allows for a moment of sincere introspection. I want to lay the foundation for the set of ayats I'll speak about by highlighting a reality. The Prophet ﷺ often needed to regroup with his ummah. Whenever fitna erupted or people fell into strife, he would bring everyone back together, sit them down, and remind them of their purpose. This happened repeatedly, and it is remarkable how the Prophet ﷺ could always unite people, refocus them, and motivate them toward a common cause. To illustrate, consider a simple historical example. During one episode of battle, there were 50 archers stationed on a mountain. Out of these 50, 40 disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ and descended from their post because they assumed the battle was over. This created a vulnerability in the Muslim ranks, and it was here that defeat and fracture became apparent. Now, imagine being one of those 40 archers. How would you reintegrate into the community after such a critical error that resulted in the loss of over 70 lives? How would you face the Prophet ﷺ and your fellow Muslims after having contributed to such a calamity? This is not a minor mistake, it had severe consequences. Conversely, imagine being someone whose husband, father, or son was killed because of that mistake. Would you be able to pray alongside one of the 40 archers? Could you carry that anger and still share proximity in prayer with someone whose error caused such tragedy? The Prophet ﷺ, in his exemplary capacity, forgave them and reintegrated them fully into the community. They were not shamed or publicly condemned. They were protected and guided back into the fold. This demonstrates the profound difference between those who faltered out of weakness and those who acted with deliberate malice, like the hypocrites who abandoned the Prophet ﷺ from the very beginning of the battle. The Prophet ﷺ understood these human nuances, and this ability allowed him to bring people back together, even in the most challenging circumstances, around a common purpose. This was his leadership from the very start. He was sending a message to a society entrenched in idol worship, tribalism, classism, and systemic biases. Each tribe and each idol represented entire ecosystems of loyalty and psychology that he had to navigate. In Mecca, he spoke to tribal sensibilities without compromising the integrity of his message. He encouraged people to embrace the best qualities of their tribes while leaving behind harmful traditions and injustices. Despite his eloquence and moral authority, his own tribe's opposition was unyielding because he was not among them. They could not accept him simply because he was from Banu Hashim, not their tribe. Even before his migration to Medina, these tribal divisions defined the resistance he faced. In Medina, the challenge was even greater. He arrived in a city divided into over 40 sub-tribes, many of which had a history of intertribal violence. Yet, he succeeded in uniting these people, establishing common cause and a shared covenant that transcended tribal loyalties. A crucial verse of the Quran captures this concept perfectly. Hold firmly to the rope of Allah altogether and do not become divided. There's an image of urgency here, of pressure, that brings out the best in people. When comfortable, humans tend to lean into indulgence and complacency. But under pressure, one is forced to confront purpose and responsibility. Early Muslims were awakened to a greater purpose, realizing that life had meaning beyond personal indulgences. A compelling example is that of Abu Mij. He struggled with alcoholism but realized the gravity of the Battle of Qadisiyah and his personal responsibility. He convinced his wife to allow him to participate, wrapped his face so that he would be unrecognizable, and fought valiantly. Upon returning, he was freed from prior restrictions. This story demonstrates the transformative effect of a sense of urgency, personal accountability, and recognition of a higher purpose. The rope of Allah, in this context, symbolizes the Quran and the guidance it provides. The Prophet ﷺ consistently emphasized the importance of adhering to it and bringing others to it. Holding on to this rope collectively represents unity, mutual support, and shared purpose. In moments of potential division, the baseline intelligence is to grasp this rope firmly, to prevent oneself and others from falling into spiritual ruin. The Prophet ﷺ exemplified this by uniting people of vastly different backgrounds and experiences under the banner of faith, creating cohesion among those who were once adversaries. The identity of Islam becomes the defining characteristic, surpassing all other affiliations. The Quran reinforces this. O you who believe, be mindful of Allah as He should be, and do not die except as Muslims. Other identities can exist, but they are secondary to the primary identity of being a Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ was able to transform a fractured and divided society into a unified Ummah, bound by a higher calling. In battles such as Badr, Muslims from Medina and Mecca stood together, setting aside past enmities, and fought for the protection of the Prophet ﷺ and the message of Islam. This unifying principle extends beyond warfare and communal conflict. It applies to marriage, social responsibilities, and daily interactions. When people are united by common purpose and a shared pursuit of Allah's pleasure, differences are minimized and petty disputes become secondary. Love and loyalty are expressed through guiding others to righteousness, preventing harm, and protecting them from sin even if it causes temporary friction. The Quran also emphasizes working together in righteousness while avoiding sin, and cooperate in righteousness and piety, but do not cooperate in sin and aggression. Cooperation must be guided by noble objectives and ethical means. The ends do not justify unethical actions. Noble goals require noble methods. Every sin creates distance between a person and Allah, making caution essential. Holding oneself back from transgression protects both oneself and others, fostering a community aligned with divine guidance. The Prophet ﷺ provided practical guidance. Support your brother, whether he is oppressed or at risk of becoming an oppressor. True support involves preventing harm, even if it challenges personal loyalties. Family and friends may inadvertently enable sin by failing to correct harmful behavior. Islam teaches that true care involves safeguarding one's loved ones from spiritual ruin, even if it provokes temporary conflict or dissatisfaction. This principle extends to communal disputes and tribal loyalties. Aligning with someone simply because of historical or familial allegiance when they are in the wrong facilitates harm and spiritual loss. The rope of Allah serves as the guiding principle, uniting people in shared commitment and purpose. Adherence to this covenant enables collective progress, moral integrity, and communal support, even amidst personal differences and societal pressures. The Prophet ﷺ's leadership demonstrates the transformative power of faith in creating unity from division, purpose from chaos, and moral clarity from tribal or personal bias. The lessons are timeless. Embrace the Quran and the Sunnah. Unite under shared principles. Act with integrity, and guide others toward righteousness. This requires vigilance, courage, and a willingness to prioritize eternal values over temporary attachments or desires. In modern contexts, these lessons remain profoundly relevant. Conflicts within families, communities, or broader society often stem from prioritizing personal, tribal, or ideological loyalty over collective ethical obligations. Islam instructs adherence to divine guidance, mutual support in righteousness, and restraint from harm as the foundation for both personal and communal well-being. True leadership, inspired by the Prophet ﷺ, requires guiding others back to the rope of Allah, fostering unity, and ensuring that shared goals are pursued with integrity. Ultimately, the Quran and Sunnah serve as the rope of Allah. They unite diverse people, transcend tribal and social divisions, and create a framework for ethical action and communal solidarity. By grasping this rope firmly, individuals and communities are safeguarded from division, guided toward shared purpose, and empowered to act in ways that benefit both themselves and others. The Prophet ﷺ exemplified this throughout his life, whether in battles, community building, or daily interactions, offering timeless lessons for moral courage, unity, and the pursuit of Allah's pleasure. May Allah enable us to grasp this rope firmly, extend it to others, and remain united in purpose. May He allow us to support one another, correct one another, and work collectively toward goodness. May Allah unite us for the benefit of those facing trials and oppression, and may He guide us to live in alignment with His guidance, upholding justice, compassion, and the shared responsibility of our faith. May He help us aspire to higher callings, both individually and collectively, and safeguard us from the distractions of lower desires and petty conflicts.